Welcome to another exciting lecture in this series. Today, we shall be learning about mythological drama. We shall also be discussing about some eminent works of the Greek playwright Sophocles in this respect, thereafter concluding by analyzing the theme and doing a character study of his play Antigone in detail as prescribed by the syllabus. The word mythological draws its root from the word myth. A myth is a fiction with a simple, often non-linear narrative that tells a story about human behavior, the origins of the universe, natural phenomena, the relationship between culture and nature, and the physical and metaphysical. It makes use of symbols and archetypes, especially for characterization. Gods and humans often consort with each other, mingling their identities. Thus, mythological drama emerge from ancient cultural practices and can be understood as poetic modes of understanding and representation. Mythic histories make claims about lineage and establish national and ethnic identities by telling stories of war and conquest or the founding of the city-state. This genre of drama has fascinated playwrights since ancient Greek times. In fact, Greek dramatists were among the ones to use this theme most extensively in their writings. They drew on myths for their subject matter, adding plot and characterization. But myth and drama are also related closely in terms of religious ritual and public performance. The earliest Greek drama developed from religious festivals. A chorus performed a dithyrambic hymn in praise of Dionysius, the god presiding over revels and festivals, the lord of the dance. Dramatization occurs when the protagonist separates from the chorus, speaking as a single voice. In tragedy, the protagonist's voice and presence indicates his estrangement from society and nature. The audience recognizes the myth, patterns of destiny and suffering, and how these might be resolved. Sometimes, dramatic conflict arises from equally justified moral imperatives, as in Sophocles' Antigone, in which the protagonist refuses to privilege the demands of the state over duties to the gods of the underworld, thereby condemning herself knowingly and willingly to death. Let us understand the relation between myth and drama further by observing the work of the Greek dramatist Sophocles, one of the three ancient Greek tragedians whose plays have survived. Sophocles influenced the development of drama, most importantly by adding a third actor, thereby reducing the importance of the chorus in the presentation of the plot. He also developed his characters to a great extent than earlier playwrights such as Aeschylus. Antigone and Oedipus are the most famous tragedies of Sophocles, generally known as the Theban plays. The Theban plays consist of three plays: Oedipus the king, also called Oedipus Tyrannus, or by its Latin title Oedipus Rex; second, Oedipus at Colonus, and Antigone. All three plays concern the fate of Thebes during and after the reign of King Oedipus. Each of the plays relates to the tale of the mythological Oedipus who killed his father and married his mother without knowledge that they were his parents. His family is fated to be doomed for 3 generations. In Oedipus the king, Oedipus is the protagonist. Oedipus' infanticide is planned by his parents, Laius and Jocasta, to avert him fulfilling a prophecy. In truth, the servant entrusted with the infanticide passes the infant on through a series of intermediaries to a childless couple, who adopt him not knowing his history. Oedipus eventually learns of the Delphic oracle's prophecy of him that he would kill his father and marry his mother. Oedipus attempts to flee his fate without harming his parents. At this point, he does not know that he is adopted. Oedipus meets a man at a crossroads, accompanied by servants. Oedipus and the man fought, and Oedipus killed the man. This man was his father, Laius. Not that anyone apart from the gods knew this at that time. He becomes the ruler of Thebes after solving the riddle of the Sphinx, and in the process marries the widowed queen, his mother, Jocasta. When the truth comes out, Jocasta commits suicide. Oedipus blinds himself and leaves Thebes. And the children? The children are left to sort out the consequences themselves, which provides the grounds for the later parts of the cycle of plays. While in Oedipus at Colonus, the banished Oedipus and his daughter Antigone arrive at the town of Colonus, where they encounter Theseus, king of Athens. Oedipus dies and strife begins between his sons Polynices and Eteocles. In the play Antigone, the protagonist is Oedipus' daughter Antigone. She is faced with the choice of allowing her brother Polynices' body to remain unburied outside the city walls, exposed to the ravages of wild animals, or to bury him and face death. The king of the land, Creon, has forbidden the burial of Polynices, for according to him, he was a traitor to the city. Antigone decides to bury his body and face the consequences of her action. Creon sentences her to death. Eventually, Creon is convinced by the chorus to free Antigone from her punishment, but his decision comes too late, and Antigone commits suicide. Her suicide triggers the suicide of two other close to King Creon, his son Haemon, who was to wed Antigone, and his wife Eurydice, who commits suicide after losing her only surviving son. The plays were written across 36 years of Sophocles' career and were not composed in chronological order, as one might assume them to be. On the contrary, they were written in the order Antigone, Oedipus the king, and finally Oedipus at Colonus. Let us now analyze the play Antigone. The story of one's sister's loyalty to both her brothers, regardless of their acts of opposing political beliefs. It is one of the most consistently popular plays in the history of drama. It is also a textbook example of how to develop one short episode from a myth story to make a full-scale tragedy articulating universal themes and meanings. The fact that her story has had such an effect on world consciousness is entirely due to the issues which Sophocles draws from the myth and to his portrayal of Antigone herself, pulled between heroic certainty and all too human frailty. Since we are already acquainted with the plot, let us now talk about the characters individually to develop a better understanding of each. Let us begin with Antigone, the rebel in the family who refuses to play by the rules. She rebels against the fundamental rules of the society, which dictated that women must be afraid of men. She defies Creon's decree despite the consequences she may face, led by her belief that she must commit acts of sisterly love towards her brother. While confronting Creon after being caught, knowing it very well that she will soon be put to death, she insists she obeyed the gods and committed acts of honor, for which she believes that she will be rewarded. She has neither fear nor doubt. She knows what she feels and is not scared to execute it. Not only does she challenge the decision of Creon by committing an act of revolt, throughout the script, one can also see that she constantly presents firm arguments in favor of her own case whenever confronting Creon. Ismene, on the other hand, fears Creon and plays by the rule. Although later she begs to die with Antigone, showing her kind-heartedness and sisterly love. Creon. Creon is the current king of Thebes. He is confronted with a situation where he needs to choose between his duty as a king and as an uncle. The play gives us moments to meet Creon the man behind Creon the king in flashes when he is in conversation with his son. Also, when the chorus pleads him to change his decision in the end, when he learns of both his son and wife's death, the human nature of his character in the form of weakness is exposed, as opposed to the staunch dictator image he had maintained up till then. However, some scholars also blame him of being arrogant, whose pride led to the tragic death of Antigone. Hymen is the son of Creon and Eurydice, who is betrothed to Antigone. He is unlike his father. Kind-hearted and quiet, he attempts to stand up to his father for the sake of Antigone. He begs him to listen to her and be reasonable. However, when Creon refuses to listen to him, Hymen runs off angrily and shouts he will never ever see him again, showing that his love for Antigone outweighs his fear of his father. He later commits suicide after finding Antigone dead. Yet, just before he does, he attempts to kill his father due to his anger. Tiresias is the blind prophet. Despite being physically blind, he is able to see the truth and predicts prophecies. Sophocles plays with the word blind in this case. He attempts to show how Tiresias can see despite being blind, whereas Creon cannot see despite having full eyesight. Creon cannot see the truth, which is far more important than physical sight, as Sophocles presents. Portrayed as wise and full of reason, Tiresias attempts to warn Creon of his foolishness and tells him the gods are angry. He manages to convince Creon and has him bury Polynesius, yet he is too late to rescue Antigone. Finally, coming on to the chorus now. The chorus plays a very significant role in all Greek plays. They are used as interesting theatrical devices, sometimes voicing the internal conflicts of the character, while at other times questioning the character as the other. In this play, the chorus consists of a group of elderly Theban men. Their sole purpose is to comment on the action in the play and add to the suspense and emotions, as well as connecting the story to myths. In Antigone, the chorus often take the side of Creon because they respect him and also fear him. However, over time, they begin to urge him to be more moderate. Their pleading is what causes Creon not to sentence Ismene to death along with Antigone. They also advise Creon to take Tiresias' advice. In a way, the chorus indirectly saves Creon at numerous points throughout the play, suggesting they play a more important role than merely providing commentary. Greek playwrights were very intelligent. They always tackled with the subject of gods at war with the humans and raised certain questions, almost always ending on a tragic note, encapsulating themes dealing with the emotions, morality, and intellect powerful enough to trigger debates even in the contemporary times. These questions would be rooted within the conflict represented in the play. Just as the conflict between Antigone and Creon triggers some very important questions. Polynesius is declared as a traitor, for he was not fighting in the interest of the state. Interest of the state refers to the will of the king Creon, owing to which he is refused proper burial rites. Here, a very interesting fact comes to the surface. Who is a traitor? Who decides who is a traitor? The person who is in power? A strong conflict here laying undercurrent is that of law and justice. Does every law leads to justice? Is justice a separate entity independent of law, or is it not? If justice is dependent on law, then it is subjective to the person who gets to make the law. Antigone refuses to obey the law in lieu of greater callings. She believes that human laws can never be absolute, unlike Creon, who believes the law of the state is of the highest order. She is a law to herself, and as she is well aware, she must pay the price for standing outside the conventional definitions of law and justice. Unlike Ismene, considered the good girl of the family, obedient and submissive. She refuses to bury Polynesius because she fears Creon and plays by the rule of the state. Sophocles questions the concept of citizenship by displaying a clash between Creon and Antigone. Creon defines citizenship as utmost obedience to the will of the state and thus condemns Antigone to death when he feels that she has abandoned her citizenship by disobeying him. On the other hand, Antigone allows more room for individualism within the role of the citizen. It was a custom with Greeks that each city was responsible for the burial of its citizens. The Greeks considered burial a sign of recognition of citizenship and affiliation. It is therefore natural that the people of Thebes would have buried Polynesius, since he is a citizen of Thebes. But Creon, by prohibiting his people from doing so, wanted to send the message that Polynesius has distanced himself from them and that they are prohibited from treating him as a fellow citizen anymore and burying him as is the custom for citizens, thus placing him on the level of the other attackers, making him a foreigner. As defined by this decree, citizenship is based on loyalty. It is revoked when Polynesius commits what in Creon's eyes amounts to treason. When pitted against Antigone's view, this understanding of citizenship creates a new axis of conflict. Antigone does not deny that Polynesius has betrayed the state, but she refuses to agree to any concept of revoking his citizenship, constituting an inherent part of his identity. For it was not possible, even for a king, to dissolve the relationship he once had with the city. Creon, on the other hand, believes that citizenship is a contract. it is not absolute or inalienable and can be lost in certain circumstances. These two opposing views, that citizenship is absolute and undeniable, and alternatively that citizenship is based on certain behavior, are known respectively as citizenship by nature and citizenship by law. Antigone's determination to bury Polynesius arises from a desire to bring honor to her family and to honor the higher law of the gods. She repeatedly declares that she must act to please those that are dead, because they hold more weight than any ruler. That is the weight of divine law. In the opening scene, she makes an emotional appeal to her sister Ismene, saying that they must protect their brother out of sisterly love, even if he did betray their state. In the end, I would like to mention that, just as in most of the Greek plays based upon the conception of the gods versus humans, in this play, Sophocles has raised a question. Which law is greater, the gods or the man's? Well, so go ahead and read the play again, analyze and decide for yourself whose action would you defend and whose side has Sophocles taken. I hope you enjoyed today's lecture. I'll see you soon. Till then, take care and goodbye.